Good afternoon. You may have noticed in earlier parts of this video, or even the one about the levels, some of the video sound quality wasn't great. That's because I recorded it on my phone. That's because my GoPro has, or is about to, go on mission to Africa. I've lent it out to somebody who's heading over there, so that's why that's happening. And so I now have a DJI Pocket 2, which I'm going to use in the interim, which is kind of 2-year-old technology, but a great little camera from as far as I can work out. And different from the GoPro, can be used in different ways to the GoPro. So that's what we're using today. Today I'm back on the trailer. I am going to cut the steel for the raised tailgate section and hopefully get that all welded up. I went to the steel merchant today, bought some 50 by 25 RHS galvanized, so should just make the job a little bit easier. So I will get on with that, and you can come along with the ride. Hello, present Ian here. I'm inserting this little bit at the beginning of the video as a little bit of an explainer, and then I'll come back at the end. But for now, the bulk of this video was recorded a couple of weeks ago. It seems longer. There are a few things that have happened, particularly over the first 10 days or so. I will explain a little bit of what's been happening at this end of the video, then circle around at the end. First though, a quick explanation as to why this video has been a while in coming. Basically, after more than 3.5 years of managing to avoid it, COVID finally caught up with me, and then I passed it on to Kathy before I realised that I even had it. It took me out for a week, and then the residual cough has meant that trying to record the narrative for the video was an exercise in futility. You can probably hear that my voice is still a bit scratchy. I did, however, have the trailer pressed into service before that happened, but only just, and that was useful. At the end of the video, I will circle back around and give you an update of how the trailer has been used since it was completed. For now, let's go back a couple of weeks. The fabrication of the high sides for the trailer has taken much longer than it could have. But as you know, there are other things going on in parallel with this job. This was added to significantly over the last couple of weeks. We were thrown a bit of a curveball this past week, in that the care facility where Kathy's mum is in hospital care sent an email to the families of all 22 residents to say that they were closing down the facility, and please could you find somewhere else for your loved one as soon as possible. That came on the Thursday, and there was to be a meeting of all the affected families on the Monday. Me being me, immediately at 9 a.m. on the Friday morning, I went to another care facility that we like. Kathy has seen them all over many years, and I inquired about a bed there for Mum. They didn't have one available at that point, but as is the nature of these places, one became available over the weekend. So they called me first thing on Monday to let me know, and said, could you please bring her on Wednesday? Yikes! Talk about tight time frames. At the group meeting at the old facility on the Monday, management said that they wanted to meet with each family individually over the next 3 days, including the Monday. Our meeting, because we weren't in a particular hurry, eventually happened on the Wednesday morning. The manager was somewhat stunned when I told him that at our meeting that we were taking Mum away that afternoon. Mum is now settled in the new facility and the staff appear to be appropriately caring, and I think Mum is enjoying the slightly quieter environment. We really want to thank the Lord for how this has all worked out, including the fact that the old facility allowed us to take Mum's special chair with her to the new facility. They didn't have to do that, and we really appreciated it. That alone was a significant thing for them to agree to. Not exactly sure whether there will be money involved yet, but we'll see where it goes. Coming back to the trailer, the reason I was grinding the welds wasn't because the welds were particularly lumpy, but because I want the sheet metal to sit very flat against the box section when it comes to putting that on. You can see that fabricating the steel frame was a mostly straightforward affair. Initially, when I tacked it together, it was slightly out of square. I did square it up initially, but anyway, I had to dismantle it and start again. Box section can be tricky to weld together, as depending on which way you run the weld on the join and how the join is cut and various other things, it can, if you aren't careful, cause the frame to pull out of square even when it was initially square. Good afternoon. It is another sunny Hawke's Bay afternoon, and this afternoon I am back on the trailer again. I want to complete the hinges and latch for the rear gate on the trailer today. I should be able to pick up the sheet metal tomorrow afternoon, and then Thursday I will need to get all of that on there. I think I mentioned this earlier because I need it for Saturday, and Friday's already booked up with other things. So you will remember that I talked a bit about having two gates at the back and various things like that, but I've decided to just go for one, and the reason for that is I'll show you. So the reason for one gate is that it'll be stronger on the top. I want a gap down here, which is why I've got this piece of wood in here, so that I can open this without it, rubbing against the underside of here. But I want to be able to put timber and things like that on the top of here, and for this to be strong in and of itself. If I did it in two gates, that would be a weak spot. So my plan is to hinge it on this side, and then the whole thing will swing around and latch back against there when I want to open it. The tricky bit around that is that, let me come around here and we'll zoom in a little bit. So I have decided to use these for the hinges, which you may say, well, that's the same as the front. Well, no, because I want to put this through here, like so. And so then this will be on here, this will be on there, and then that will go into there like that. That will just give the gate more support, sitting this surface on this surface, so that it can rotate on there. The front one didn't rotate, it's just a drop in, but this needs to be able to rotate. So I'll put that. I may need to cut these a bit shorter so that I can put a pin through the bottom of here to retain it, but we'll see. So that's the plan. But of course the next thing is that as this gate rotates, then I don't want it to foul on here, so it has to be out here so that this surface comes around onto this surface. So I now need to figure out a way to mount this out from there. So I need a bit of steel or something in here between these two. If I bring this camera around a bit further, you'll get a better angle. hopefully, potentially. Yeah, so this needs to sit out like so. So I need to have something in here so that that can sit out, so that when it swings around, this surface is against this surface. So I'll nut that out and stick it on there, and then we'll be hopefully sorted. I will carry on with that and show it to you when I have finished. Okay. It would be fair to say that it has been quite a long afternoon trying to get these hinges sorted out so that the gate will swing right around against the side of the trailer. The geometry is tricky. It's not really, but I'd have to say it's taken me much longer than it should have, but I have now finally got it sorted. So I will weld up the last hinge, and then I will show you what I've done and why previous attempts did not work. Let's go. Sorting out the hinges turned out to be trickier than I expected. My brain was a bit distracted by the stuff going on with Mum, and the geometry was giving me grief. There was quite a bit of do, undo, redo. In the end, I scrapped my original plan and switched to the one that is now in place. I'm not entirely happy with it, and now that I have done it, I can easily see how I could have done it better and more easily. It's been a long time since I've done this sort of thing. The fact that partway through the week there was a call put out from church to help a family move on the Thursday evening just added a bit more time pressure, but that wasn't necessarily a bad thing. The move ended up being both Thursday evening and Friday morning, and so at this point I'm really going for it to try and get all of this done before later on Thursday. Don't look at the welding too closely, but the issue was that I was trying to keep it too tight in here. In order for the gate to be able to swing right around, I need to move the pivot point right out here so that when this swings around it's clear of there. I will show you what I mean. So now when this swings around, it is now well clear of fouling against here, which is what it was doing when I had the hinge point further closer here and closer both in this direction and in that direction. I was trying to keep it closer because these are a bit of a liability sticking out here with people, you know, it's easy to catch yourself on them when you walk around the corner, but that in some degree is mitigated by the fact that this sticks out here anyway. But I'm pleased to say that is now working. Now I realise that is dropped down at the other end, but that's because I haven't put the sleeves in here yet. I will do that, but it is nice to have that bit done, sorted. Okay, I will carry on. Good afternoon. I have been working on the trailer this afternoon and getting the sides on. I picked them up yesterday. Yes, yesterday. And I need to get them all riveted on because I'm going to help somebody move house at 5 o'clock and it's now after 3. So I will crack on with that. I finished off the tailgate, did a really basic latch on the other side with a bit of reinforcing rod. I'll show you all that later, but for now I need to get on and get this sheet metal riveted on. Here we go. Because I know these rivets are going to be under a reasonable amount of stress, both from a pulling out perspective, but also as the sheet metal potentially moves, there'll be some shear on the rivets as well. Therefore, I brought stainless steel rivets. You will see that I soon discovered that the small rivet gun that I had brought up from the workshop for the task was inadequate to the task. Well, at least my ability to squeeze it shut was inadequate. So I needed to retrieve the lazy tong one. This is a big concertina rivet gun that was my dad's, and I would guess that it's at least 50 years old. In the latter part of his life, he contracted to the Auckland Education Board to repair all the school desks and chairs in the wider Auckland region. The seats and backs of the chairs were all riveted to the metal tubing with long aluminium rivets. He must have put in tens of thousands of rivets with this gun. It proved to be up to the task in this case, and it didn't take too long to complete the job. The reason I'm using the piece of wood that I was putting on the outside of the trailer and pulling in is that I'm using it to push the bottom rail in against the sheet metal while I put the rivet in. The sheet metal is slightly longer downwards than the raised side, and so it goes down into the lower part of the trailer. This is to stop sand and things egressing between the two parts. The raised part had a bit of a bow outwards in it, so I needed to persuade it to move towards the sheet metal before I drilled it and riveted it. Alright, you can enjoy the rest of this with some music, and I'll come back at the end. Here we go, the finished article. So we saw the hinges before, and then on this corner I've just put a drop pin. So 4 bits of pipe, and this just drops down in there. I can just take it out to swing the gate around. So that's all done. I'm very pleased to have that done. So what we did was the sheet metal comes up and folds over. It just stops that being pulled away there if somebody happens to scrape something across it, and it also means that I don't have to rivet it at the top because it's not going to go anywhere. So all I needed to do was basically put a couple of rivets down on, or actually I think on these I put one at the side and then across the bottom. On the front one, because it has the, potentially 90 kilometre an hour winds pushing against it, I've actually put another one up here as well. I am pleased to have that finished, and just in time. I think it's probably 3:30. What time is it? Let's have a look. It's actually nearly 4:10. So I need to go and have a quick wash and a drink, and it'll be just about time to head off. See you later. Bye. I'm back, and we're back in the present. Well, more or less. Within about 30 minutes of completing the trailer, as I said at the time, it was pressed into service, helping a family move house. The trailer worked well for that, both because of the high sides and also because of the very robust mudguards and things that it has on it, which means that you can stand on those without fear of bending or breaking them, for loading stuff in and moving stuff around and all those kind of things. So that was Thursday night, also Friday morning, and then on Saturday I took the trailer over to Esk Valley as part of a working bee organised through the church to help with some of the cleanup over there. Basically, we were cleaning out a condemned house. Now, you might ask, as I did when we went there, why are you bothering to clear out a condemned house that's full of silt and is obviously of no use to anybody? Let me explain. Because I learned a few things as part of this, and I pass that on to you so that you have a clearer understanding of the situation that these unfortunate people face. It comes down to really how a broken system of insurance payouts and property buyouts works. These people were insured, but like many, they were underinsured, meaning the costs they face in this total loss situation don't even come close to covering the cost that they face. Their insurer will pay out on their homes for the sum insured, which in most cases is well short of any replacement cost. With these Category 3 homes, meaning that they are not allowed to rebuild on that land, the local council, with the help of some funding from the government, central government, then make them an offer for the land. That, however, comes with a condition, and that is that the property must be vacant of all structures. That is the kicker, because the cost of removing a house that is filled with silt, possessions, and a number of other things is minimally $50,000 up to $100,000. The reason is that it is contaminated waste, i.e. it has possessions in it, as I said, and in some cases there's also asbestos sheeting to deal with, but it's really just the fact that it's a conglomeration of building materials, people's possessions and silt that is the issue. If it wasn't for the volunteers that have been working for months now to clear out these houses, it's a pretty insurmountable task for a family to take on. The house that we were working on, it was quite confronting really, because this house was chest deep in silt in places. Most of it was above waist deep, and in amongst that there were children's books and toys and all of those things. They had a less than 1 year old when they had to leave in the middle of the night. That would be pretty scary. Our job was to get as much as possible out of the house that could be recycled. So dug out the kitchen, the pantry, all of those kind of things that were full of stuff that you would expect in a house. There was a dishwasher, there was things in the laundry, there was a stove, there was a coffee maker. All of those kind of things all needed to be dug out and, as much as possible, recycled. Then, in conjunction, alongside that, I was actually removing with others the windows complete with frames and the doors complete with frames where they were in one piece. In other words, where they could be resold. Where they couldn't be resold, we broke them down into their component parts. So in other words, the glass got put into the big skip bin because you can't recycle window glass, and the aluminium was put on the aluminium pile. All the appliances were put into an appliance pile to be recycled as well. Once we had the window frames and door frames out, then we pulled out the wall below the windows, and then the skid steer could come in and the digger could come in and clear out the bulk of the silt. And we would pick the possessions out of that, like the bookshelf that had all the books and videos and things like that in it, and other things. The rest of the house is then dismantled from the top down, so the roof is taken off. If that can be resold, it will be. If it can be it will be recycled. If it can't be, things like that. And the timber, where it can be, is burnt to get rid of it. Then you might ask, why don't the people just walk away? Well, because if they do, then the authorities will just bring in the contractors who will just basically scoop all of it up in diggers and take it all away, and the cost of that is borne by the owner. And so generally, and not exclusively, but generally, the contractors are not really interested in anything that involves manual labour. So if they can't do it with a digger, then it won't be separated. So that's something for you to observe next time you're near one of those devastated areas, that when you see those houses that are either still all there in one piece or have been partially, the roof might have been taken off, and that's the reason, is that it's just a huge job and needs a lot of manpower. And so, we're tremendously privileged with and fortunate with the little bit of damage that we have to deal with. That's it for this video. I really don't know when the next one will be or even what it will be about. If I have some time, I might even revisit a holiday that Kathy and I had a couple of years ago up around the East Cape, before they were devastated by the first lot of weather that went up through there in November 21, I think it was. So I may not get to that, we'll see. I've got a bit going on at the moment, so thank you for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed this somewhat different video, and I'll see you next time. Bye.